So as we all know, universities are a hotbed of anti-Israel sentiment and frankly just a lot of ignorance about the conflict. Here is a student talking to their professor in America about how, terrible Israel is, and refreshingly, the professor sets her and the students right. Have a watch.
American students follow celebrities, follow influencers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And they see all of them post that they stand with Israel. But
I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing people standing with Israel and people standing with Palestine.
Okay, biggest example
The idea, though, is people are standing with people who are standing somewhere in a conflict about which they know very, very little.
Yeah.
Okay?
Israel has bombed apartment complexes, which is filled with women and children. And
Sky News was 100% pro-Israel. Al Jazeera, 100% pro-Palestinians. Palestinian, 100%. Didn't have a single, even 30 seconds in which they might lead a human being to feel some kind of empathy toward Jewish people, including the people who were killed by Hamas, okay? Nothing at all. The United States government has made a decision that it will support Israel, going back many years. That's not always necessarily going to be the case. One thing that Jews, not only in the United States have, but Jewish people in Israel and all around the world, have a fear of just the hate. And what I will say as a sociologist who just studies this stuff, I'm blown away at how many people hate Jews. It makes no sense to me. If I'm Jewish, from what I know, as someone who's named after my mother's Jewish gynecologist, it's as close as I personally get to Judaism, right? I think, man, I'm frightened by the anti-Semitism. I was in the jungles of Ecuador one time, and I showed up at this little village. And the houses were up on stilts. It was like I went in a dugout canoe, and I get there, and I get to this village, and there's Shuar Indians. The Shuar Indians are the last indigenous peoples in the Amazon who gave up they used to engage in head hunting and shrinking heads and stuff. I saw shrunken heads that they, not from these people, but their ancestors. And I get there, and they ask me what my name is, and I say, my name is Samuel. Samuel. And now we're speaking in Spanish. They say, eres judeo? Are you Jewish? And I say, no. And they say, gracias a Dios. Thank God. And I'm like, what the f***? You never met a Jew. You're in the middle of the jungle. You're Shuar Indian. You have no idea at all. And you're telling me, thank God you're not a Jew. And I'm thinking, what do you have against Jews? Everywhere I turn, it's Jews. This anti-Semitism that just goes unregulated in this weird, and it raises its head up. It just stays dormant. Among Christians, by the way, we think there's anti-Semitism among Muslims. The anti-Semitism is alive and well among Christians, and it's not alive, it's just buried, it lies dormant. And it emerges out of Christianity, by the way. It doesn't emerge out of Islam. So there's misinformation on all sides. And I see misinformation in the Arab world about Israel. It's you guys sometimes when I'm in the Middle East and I start talking about Judaism in Israel, I'm like, you guys don't know anything. You don't know anything. This is Judaism is the mother religion of your religion. Ibrahim, one of the most common names among Muslims, is Abraham. Jesus, for Christians, Jesus is mentioned more times than Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the Quran. It's come on.
He seems like a great guy. He is baffled by anti-Semitism, and I wonder if I could maybe try to elaborate a bit on this and see if we can get to an understanding of what really is going on with this obsession with the Jews. Interestingly enough, he points out that there is a total double standard, an obsession with Israel, and Jews have this fear of their, existence being challenged. The fact that Israel is the one country on earth whose very right to exist is questioned. And as he says, the Jews have faced a unique kind of hatred over 3,000 years, which has been, it's unique in that it's been exterminationist in nature. What other kind of racism and prejudice do we see that is exterminationist? And it's always been that way with the Jews. And you're telling me it's just coincidence that it happens to be the one country today whose very existence is questioned is the Jews. Hitler wanted to get rid of the Jews. Prior nations and empires that willed the Jews' destruction, they all had the same idea. And now today, with so many states having been formed that are even younger than the rebirth of the Jewish state, and had way more displacement and tragedies and deaths and suffering in their establishment of sovereignty. And yet, no, Israel is the only country whose existence is challenged. Of course it's to do with anti-Semitism, and of course we need to understand what's really going on here. It's amazing, by the way, that student at the start spoke about, look at all the suffering that's occurred, the fact that children are dying in war in Gaza and all of that. When the West fought other enemies, ISIS, ISIL, the Taliban, even World War II, everyone understood that when there were civilian casualties, that was an inevitable tragic consequence of war. It's not always possible to have a total perfect ratio of no civilians hurt and combatants only targeted. In fact, when the Western-backed Iraqi army went into Mosul to finish off ISIS in Iraq, 40,000 were killed, 36,000 of those were civilians. Israel, on the other hand, they say 50,000 have been killed. Do they not want to know how many Gazans are actually Hamas terrorists? Even when they talk about children dying, some of them are Hamas terrorists as well. They're just not 18 yet. 17, 16. Yet with Israel, they speak of, it's unacceptable that schools, hospitals, civilians are hurt. When Hamas literally fight beneath, using these buildings, using these civilians as human shields. Anyone in their right mind would understand that you can't therefore say, well, we can't do anything. You have to fight and defeat them, otherwise you just incentivize more terrorism and you let them win. Torah morality is clear. If someone tries to kill you, if they use human shields, you destroy them. Otherwise, evil continues to fester and you threaten your own existence, and you have a duty to protect you and your family and your nation. So the double standards are so clear. And he is so baffled by anti-Semitism. What is it with this obsession? I think the only way that you can make sense of it is to understand that it is supernatural. That the Jewish people have a supernatural role in history. And therefore, that brings about a supernatural kind of resistance. The very fact that the world is so obsessed with Israel and talking about it right now, and so much of the world's faith, Christianity and Islam, as he acknowledged, stems from Judaism. The world's magnifying glass on Israel and on the Jews, as it has been throughout history. Of course, that means, therefore, there is some kind of divine destined role of the Jews in the world, that the world at some deep level understands. And anti-Semitism is that hostility to that mission. The mission is, as the Jewish people were charged with at Mount Sinai, to be a light unto the nations, to bring the voice of God to the world. The voice of God, the vision he has for the world, what he wants from his creation, the kind of world he wills to dwell in. That is what the Jewish people were charged with at Mount Sinai. And the rabbis tell us that Sinai was given its name in part because of the Sinah. Sinah means hatred in Hebrew, the hatred that emerges from Sinai. The hatred of the nations towards the Jews began at Sinai. It was a resistance, a rebellion, maybe even a jealousy of the Jewish people's destined, particular, special role in history to be the vessel for God's light, for his word. And so, yes, Jews have faced a lot of resistance because earth wants to be earth. It doesn't want God or heaven to interact or interfere. So they say to the Jews, go back to heaven. Go back to God. We don't want you here. That's what anti-Semitism is. But what the Jewish people have been to the world and will be to the world, if the world can only understand this, is that far from this being undesirable to have God's presence, actually, it is the biggest blessing in the world. The Jews are meant to be and will be and have been a blessing to the world. And so once we understand that, it shouldn't be something that we want to resist, but actually it represents the very purpose of creation. You know, this obsession with the Jewish people, I want to talk about this in more detail maybe on another video. I came across a remarkable Midrashic Talmudic commentary. The rabbis say that when the Messiah comes, this is based on a verse in Isaiah chapter 60 verse 1. When the Messiah comes, he'll stand on the roof of the temple and he will say to Israel, if you don't believe me that your redemption is here, look at my light that is shining upon you. Now what does that mean? We won't believe him? You know, the Jews actually didn't believe Moses when he said he was coming to redeem the Jews. And maybe we might see a similar phenomenon now. After 2,000 years of exile, it's hard for us to believe that it's really over. But what does Moshiach, what does the Messiah say? Look at God's light that is shining upon you. I heard from Rabbi Manis Friedman that a way we can understand that, potentially, is that look at the light that is shining on Israel. Look at the spotlight that Israel has. The Jews have had throughout history, but even more so now. God has literally handed the microphone to the Jews. How can you not see, therefore, the divine destined role of the Jews? To be God's nation, to be his light and his blessing to the entire world. I'm so excited to share with you something that I've been working on for a while. We've just taken JTV content to the next level. Introducing JTV Plus, a new platform streaming exclusive content created and handpicked by me. Get ready for jaw-dropping documentaries, exclusive interviews, insider access, and so much more. JTV Plus brings you captivating stories that will shock and inspire you. Stories that, honestly, I'm discovering for the first time too. From Israel to Jewish history to Judaism, it's all there. In exclusive interviews, you'll hear guests open up about things they've never shared publicly before. Plus, I'll take you behind the scenes where I get a lot more personal with you. By joining JTV Plus, you're not just joining an exclusive community, you're partnering with me to help JTV reach new heights. Just search j-tv.plus and join our exclusive community today. There's a link in the video description. I'll see you there.